In my last video on INFJ self-awareness, I stated that it takes a long time to come to what is self-awareness, but it is necessary to come to a place in life to understand oneself. It's important to know what you value, and it's important to reach a place in life where you can speak about your beliefs and opinions on things. I wanted to expound on this a bit more because I believe this to be an interesting issue and potential problem in our lives. I think part of the problem for the INFJ type is we are fence sitters. And what I mean by that is in real life, when we go out and interact with people, we are always able to see both sides. We can see why this person is right and that person is right. And we can also see why they're both wrong. We can see both sides. We can see the flaws. We can see the positives or what's good. And we end up being a fence sitter. And I think that's kind of our role in life, that we are, in a sense, mediators. I know I do this when I go out there and interact with people. When I sense tension, I step in and mediate, and they have no idea I'm doing it. And to be honest, in younger years, I wasn't even consciously aware I was doing it. But now that I've gotten older, I recognize that I'm doing it. Being aware that I'm doing it has helped me to reflect on it in order to understand myself. Now I can see I don't even go after it consciously. It just starts to happen naturally. It's my natural state of being. It's what I do. So I start to mediate. I can see this person's point. I can see that person's point. And I try to bring them to a middle ground so that they can see maybe they're not that far apart and they have this in common. So I start working with them in that way. But to do this requires always sitting on the fence. You have to sit on the fence in between in order to see both sides. We do this all the time. It becomes a way of being for us, this fence sitting. And that's when it becomes difficult, because even though we are fence sitters when we interact with the public, in our personal lives, we do not want to be fence sitters. The trouble is, fence sitting is a very difficult place to be, because when you sit on the fence, you never land on either side. And so you're in a perpetual state of uncertainty because nobody can sit on the fence forever. At some point, you have to decide, I'm going over to this side or I'm going over to that side. And I think this is what leads to confusion for us because we spend so much time sitting on the fence in our lives with others that when we want to be self-aware and we turn the light on and we see that we are sitting on the fence personally in our own lives, we don't know what we think or believe. That's what causes confusion. I don't know which way to go. I don't know which way to feel. I don't know what I believe about this. I don't know which path I choose. I don't know which side of the fence I go to. And it ends up being very confusing. In your personal life, you cannot sit on the fence. Everyone, no matter who you are, no matter what type you are, you have to bite down on something eventually. Even the types that are always seeking knowledge, we say, they're seeking it just for the sake of it. Even those types, everyone has to bite down on something. Everyone has to come to some conviction in life. I believe this or I believe that. We are all like this. We all have to make judgments in our lives. We all have to make decisions. I hear people say all the time that we have to be more open-minded. The way this is presented is that you must tolerate all thought expressed. But as good as people want that to sound, it's not realistic in any way. Being open-minded simply means willing to give up a belief or thought if presented with a more reasonable alternative. People who want to berate others and tell them they must be more open-minded are simply living in chaos, in delusion. Telling people to be open-minded and to accept or entertain all thought is already hypocritical because that person is not willing to entertain someone not being open-minded. To be truly open-minded is to never plant your feet anywhere and to be constantly moving like shifting sand. And if that's where you want to live, then why should anyone listen to anything you say today? Because tomorrow you are going to believe something totally different and say something totally different. So you cannot be a perpetual fence sitter when it comes to your personal private life. You have to decide what you believe and what you think about certain things and certain issues. So this is where it gets very confusing for us, because when you don't have self-awareness and you're living your life as a fence sitter, it just generally starts to cause chaos internally. Because when you're a fence sitter, you can never be satisfied. You can never be at peace because you want to choose one side or the other, and you can't. Because either you don't have the tools to do so, or you lack the resources to help you decide. So when we do become self-aware, that's when we begin to say, okay, this is how I think about this particular issue. I'm going to get off the fence and land here. Because you have to. You have to find something solid to stand on. And I think for me, this is where I'm at in a way, because I know where I stand on a lot of things in life. But it's not necessarily something I'm going to share with others. In general, when I interact with the world out there, I still might not share where I stand on an issue necessarily. If there's a need for it, I will, but I do believe my role in life is not to tell other people what to think. I want to get people to examine their own thinking. It's just that I go about it in a way that is different than other people. You know, you get into discussions with other people and they'll say, well, I believe this about this, and they'll kind of just hit you over the head with it, and that's who they are, you know. And I've witnessed that, and it doesn't always meet with a favorable response. A lot of people, first of all, are, who are you to tell me, or don't judge me? People get very hostile to that sort of approach. And there's another side to this. Maybe the person who has said what they thought, they don't really care because it's what they believe, and they know what they believe, and they're confident in it, and they're going to say it, and they don't care what other people think. And I can find that admirable. But that's not me. That's not how I do business in life. I'm more interested in helping someone examine the scaffolding of their own thoughts. If the scaffold has to be dismantled and rebuilt, that's for them to determine. That's work for the individual to do. I can't build someone else's scaffold. I can only build my own. But I enjoy helping people learn how to inspect what they've built. And I enjoy when the same thing is done for me. So, build your own scaffold, my dear INFJ. Always see both sides, but never be afraid to choose.